Oh, hello. Welcome to the library. Oh, it's your first time visiting? Wonderful. Well, since it is your first time, I assume you don't have a library card. Wonderful. We can set you right up. But first, let me tell you just a tad bit about our library. So, our library is completely governmentally funded. It is a non-profit organization. So, unlike a lot of libraries in the cities that charge a monthly fee or so for a library card, we do not. We have the luxury of not having to charge our patrons for any of the amenities that we offer here at the library. Yeah, it's quite wonderful, and it's ease for us not to have to worry about whether someone can afford something. Because we have a lot of kids that come in to complete school projects and things like that. So, but whereas we are a nonprofit, we don't charge for library cards, computer usage, for any of the activities we host, for reading hour for kids. We host classes like cooking classes and things like that for the adults. We have teen hangout sessions, things like that. So, with that in mind, your card is completely free. You do have to update it every year. So this time next year, if you're still around, have you just moved here? Okay, great. Okay, well, it's a wonderful area. I think you'll really come to love it. So next year you'll have to renew the card. Just basic procedures. Some people's addresses change, phone numbers change, things like that. In order to set you up with a library card, I'm going to need two simple things from you. Your identification, so a license, a military ID, a permit, anything like that. And then a piece of mail with your address or something with your address on it. Just so we can mail notices. The only thing that we do keep track of are overages and overdue books. So wonderful. Okay, well, will you find those? I'll set up the form. Okay, do you have them? Thank you. Okay, okay. So with your age group, we're going to go ahead and put you in, I'm just going to go ahead and put you in the adult age group. With our library, if you're under 18, you're in the young adult, and if you're under 13, you're in the children's. So if you're in the children's, you can only check out up to 6 books at a time and 1 movie at a time. It's 2 weeks for everything. And if you're in the young adult category, it's 12 books and 3 movies. 3 or 4 movies. I'll double check that, but you're in the adult section. And then if you're in the adult section, then 20 books and 6 films for 2 weeks. Yeah. And you can renew those up to 3 times, so. Okay, and is this your home phone number you have written here? Okay, perfect. If you want to give me your cell phone, you can. You don't have to. We don't have any texting things set up. We do have a new system we switched to that has an app. So I can give you an information card that you can download a QR code, and it gives you the app where you can scan books that we have in the library, and maybe it pulls up information about them, and if you want a book and you don't know if it's in the library, you can search it on the app. It's more convenient. Okay, so you can have your stuff back. Now, I've put in the information for your card. You're activated into the system. Your card will be delivered in 5 to 7 business days, and it's completely free. It'll be hard plastic like an ID. However, you don't have it today, that's okay. I'll go ahead and just type your name in the system and use it that way. So, do you want to just go look at the books, or did you not know what you're looking for? Okay, wonderful. I would be happy to help you find some books. So, what is it that you're looking for in particular? Do you have a favorite genre, a favorite author? Classics? Okay, great. Well, I have a few already in mind, but I'm going to look in the system, and then I'm going to go grab some off the shelves. I'll be right back. Okay, so I've brought back quite a hefty stack here of books, all classics in different genres. So people often have the misconception that classics are just To Kill a Mockingbird or A Streetcar Named Desire or things like that. And they're great books. Don't get me wrong, but classics can stretch far beyond that. Yeah. So, I have a few here I'm going to show you. I think... Yeah, so one of them is a compilation of books, and then one of them's like a short story collection, but it's fine. So, the first one I want to show you is kind of horror and macabre. I don't know if you're into that, but this is one of my favorite authors, and if anyone ever asks me for a classic suggestion, I always jump to this one. So this is Shirley Jackson's We Have Always Lived in the Castle, and this is one of her most prominent works, up to, The Lottery is, I think, probably her most famous work, but that's just a short story that you've probably read in high school. Yeah, okay, so you've read her work, you know what she's about. She's about twisting things and kind of giving you the unexpected. Yeah. So, this book follows a girl who lives in an estate with her sister, and she has the town. It's hard to explain without spoiling anything. Shirley Jackson's one of those authors that you can't not spoil something, but it's about a sister and her uncle, and there's like a murder involved that she didn't commit it. People think she did, and so she has to, deal with the repercussions of being acquitted for a murder that the town still thinks she committed. And it's a ghost story. It's Shirley Jackson, it's going to be. So, this is definitely a book I would recommend that you take home with you. Crawl up under the blankets, warm cup of tea. It's one that would scare you. Okay, perfect. Well, then I'll set it aside for you, and then I'll check them out when we're done. So the next one I have to show you, a lot of people don't immediately think of it as a classic, just because it's been written, it was written quite recently, early 2000s. So it is The Road by Cormac McCarthy. Now, this book I consider a classic. We have it classified under classics here in the library. But it is a book about a man and child who, after the apocalypse, no, not zombies, it's more or less a reality of what we're living in today with the ecosystem failing and global warming and things like that. So they're left to survive, and it's a very oddly written novel, and it takes some getting used to. There's no dialogue, there's no dialogue tags, there's no quotation marks, there's no chapters. It's very, very odd, but it's a wonderful book. It is one that I think really makes people ponder what their existence means and where we go from here and what happens when we don't exist anymore, you know? So, it's one of those books that I think you should never pass up. If I would recommend someone to read at least one book in their life before they die, this has to be one of them, so. Okay, perfect. So, the next book I have to show you is more of a lighthearted. I can't lie to you, it's not as lighthearted as you would assume. So, this you may have heard of. It was turned into a movie with Sharon Stone back in the 90s. Okay, so you know Sharon Stone's acting. Great. So you've probably heard of the movie The Mighty, with Sharon Stone. Yeah. Well, the original book that the movie was based off of was Freak the Mighty by Rodman Philbrick. Now, Rodman Philbrick is a middle grade writer who has been writing books for children for ages. But here's the thing. His books don't feel like children's books. They're super thin. They're a book that you can sit down and read on the train. You can have it done by the time you drive from point A to point B. It's a really quick read. But they're books that stretch beyond the basic plots that are in most middle grade books today. You won't find mythical beings like Percy Jackson or anything in here, but you will find a story that is about friendship, about family, and about coming together in the face of adversity. And I would not be a librarian if I did not recommend this book to everyone. So, wonderful. No, they're both the same book. We have 2 copies because they're so popular. We actually have quite a few of these for kids who come to check them out for school projects. But this is the same thing as this other one. It just has movie stills in it. So now the next book I have to show you is one people quite often fight about, and it's The Catcher in the Rye by 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. And I know I'm a librarian and I should know these things, but I can't name a book other than Catcher in the Rye by 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. He is a very controversial author. He always has been. He started out as one and he died as one. So, but I think this is one of those books that, everyone's heard of, everyone's at least read once. If you haven't, then I definitely recommend that you do. These types of stories, these coming-of-age stories, they are very helpful, I feel, to the youth. Though there was a lot of controversy with this book, there was an incident, I believe, in the 90s, 80s or 90s, where a kid who was, a threat to a school campus, had this book in his locker, and immediately schools jumped on it and parents jumped on it that this book was unsafe and that it should have been put on the banned list, and it was. So you know, some places don't even have this in their libraries because it is banned. I don't feel that should be the case. We're nonprofit. We don't, you know, we do have guidelines we have to follow, but I donated this copy myself. I think it's okay. So I definitely recommend anyone read this at least once. If you hate it, if you love it, at least you have an opinion on it. Me, I personally don't know where I stand yet. I've read it a few times, and my thoughts continuously change. So maybe if you read it and tell me what you think about it. Okay. So the next book I have is probably one you might have already read. Stop me if you have. And it is The Great Gatsby by F. Scott Fitzgerald. Okay, so you have read it. See, I think there's not a student who hasn't read it. If you've been to school, you've probably read this. It is one of those books that every teacher at least once makes a kid read. I think I was a sophomore in high school when I had to read this. And then I read it again my freshman year of college. So it was a wonderful, wonderful book, and it's wonderful the second time you pick it up and you think about the things you've done. This copy in particular, it's really strange. The last person who had it used it for a class, and you know, usually we don't mind if you write in books, and you can erase like pencil or something. I'm guilty of that myself. When I was in college, I would, you know, pencil every textbook I could, every school textbook that I got from the library, if like I got ones you could take out the references. So this student in particular took and highlighted and pen and stuff like that, and you know, I didn't reprimand them because it was interesting. These notes were quite different from what I was used to seeing. So yeah, but I mean, if you've already read it, you probably don't want it again. Didn't think so. So the next book I have to show you is one that I actually haven't read, but so many people have been jumping on this bandwagon, I feel that I just have to recommend it. So it is Little Women by 𝐬𝐭𝐚𝐲. So this is the newest edition that I think has the movie pictures in it, so the movie stills from the newest movie with Saoirse Ronan. So this is a new copy we just got in. We have older copies, but everyone usually likes the newer copies. So this is a story about 4 young girls who are sisters, and they're dealing with the, you know, the troubles that come with Civil War and that come with being a woman during that time. And you know, there were so many repercussions back then that women had to do this and do that, and Jo in particular, our main character, wants to be a writer. So the book, I assume, would follow her. Again, I haven't read it completely, so would this be one you'd be interested in, though? No? Okay, that's fine. So the next book I want to suggest to you, unfortunately, only comes in a 4-book bind-up. They're all great, but I've only read 2 of them, and there's only one that I'm recommending. So the one I'm recommending to you is Great Expectations by Charles Dickens. Charles Dickens is an author's name who I think everyone knows. There's not a person, I don't think, who hasn't heard Charles Dickens. If they say they haven't, they're probably lying. So he is, of course, the author of A Christmas Carol, the very famous story that has still been retold to this day in many films and television series, and even, I think, book retellings. But I am suggesting Great Expectations to you. It is a story about Pip, a little boy, and it follows him from childhood up until adulthood, and his ways of going from blacksmith to practically ladies' man. That's the way I'm going to describe it to you. He is basically sent off to the city to become a proper gentleman and to woo a woman. So, but it's more than that. There is romance, there is war, there is false imprisonment, there is fatherhood and forgetting your ways, and many themes that I think everyone should explore at least once in their life. So, definitely recommend this. Would you want to read it? Wonderful. I wish we had a smaller copy of Great Expectations. You know, it's, I think, let me see, the book's only, let's see here, so the book only goes to about, yeah, so the book goes to about here, so you got this huge amount that you're not even going to be reading, unless you decide to read all 4, which, good on you, but I've only read Great Expectations and A Christmas Carol. So I have one more book to show you, and then we can go ahead and check your books out. So, the last book is probably the biggest book, but it is a classic author that cannot be ignored, and it is Edgar Allan Poe. So this is the complete Edgar Allan Poe Tales and Poems. This has every single thing he wrote. We set out to make sure we got a copy that had everything. There are copies that say it's complete, but then it's just the volumes or it's selected poems. This is complete. This has everything. We wanted to make sure we left no stone unturned. So this has the 73 stories, the 48 poems, you know, nothing left out. Maybe some of his unpublished stuff, I'm not sure, but that's not anything. So Edgar Allan Poe is one of those authors that I think everyone has to read. You've probably read some of his poems in school. The Raven, Annabelle Lee, or maybe you've read the short stories, the Telltale Heart. Yeah, that's his most famous. Fall, the House of Usher. But it's a good book that I think there's not one of those that you read the whole thing, but you definitely do go through and read some of your favorites. So yeah, okay, perfect. Well, now that we have your books picked out, we can go ahead and check you out. So, the first book, of course, Edgar Allan Poe, Complete Tales and Poems. And this is on a 2-week hold. Okay. The Charles Dickens Greenwich Unabridged Library Classics. Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Freak the Mighty, Rodman Philbrick. The Road, Cormac McCarthy. And then last but not least, We Have Always Lived in the Castle, Shirley Jackson. Okay, well, here are all your books. So they are due back in 2 weeks, which you can call anytime if you need to renew them. You can come in and renew them, or the app. I was going to give you that card, wasn't I? Yeah, that one right there on the desk. Perfect. Okay, so just scan that, download the app, and then you can renew them through there too. Yep, up to 3 times. So here are your books. Thank you so much for coming into the library today, and you have a wonderful rest of your week. Okay, bye-bye.